Hello, and welcome to another ramble, I guess. Um, had a fair few people reach out asking for a second ramble. I know that everybody in the free-to-play community likes seeing rambles every once in a while, so I thought I would record one. Um, the gameplay right now is just probably going to be some Castle Wars. Since the last video, I think I did a bunch of wood cutting, couple other sorts of gatherers. Nothing completely getting completed or anything to that tier. But we hit 150 mil crafting recently. Um, we're at 134 mil woodcut. I did most of my woodcut with the plugin that people have probably ended up seeing on my channel. It is no longer available for use, so I kind of haven't bothered with woodcut just too much right now. I wasn't really enjoying woodcutting with the plugin in the first place. Um, it's not exactly something that's enjoyable, so to speak, in any stretch of the imagination. When all you're doing is just kind of clicking in the same spot. But I didn't really have the goal of trying to get 200 mil woodcut prior to the plugin. It's just when the plugin was released, I completely decided, well, I might as well go do this. Which honestly lucked out. I got about 60, 70 mil woodcutting XP through the use of the plugin, so it was definitely lucrative to say the very least. So from the last while outside of the woodcutting and doing some mining during the Terry, which I guess we'll um, get into a little bit during this, since my team ended up winning. It's probably something that I should probably end up pulling up at some point, I guess. Um, we ended up having a bit of. I'm kind of at a little bit of a lull where I don't know really what I want to really push forward on just yet. So right now I'm just kind of sitting at Castle Wars because it's a very effective method for gaining some XP, making sure that I'm making progress the way that I want, and it's also very doable during all sorts of different things that you might be doing. Um, so with that being said, I guess we can kind of go into a couple different topics here. So I guess the first thing that we'll start with is the Terry comp. So just give me a second here to pull this up. So it should be on the screen now. So this was Terry comp back in December of 2025. So it was quite honestly pretty fun. I wanted to push towards getting things like certain mining records. The mining week is currently held by Enjoys, and I didn't think that I'd ever really be able to compete on that, but I was at least able to get the I do have the 6 hour day and 72, I believe. Um, so I was pacing at the beginning, but there was just I don't think I have a week in me where I could just give it absolutely everything and really reduce that sleep. So we'll we'll see if I ever bother to go for it, but it basically has to work out that everything aligns across the board on everything life wise, time off, etc. To be able to try to do a full blown week where the method is more click intensive. I'm not doing anything outside of it to, like going to flesh crawlers or spiders for a little bit of EHP in between periods that are busy and then staying up and sleeping a minimal amount. But I think going for a mining record like that it's definitely a different tier. It was also the first competition that outside of like free-to-play competitions, um, where I decided that I'd do something that's a little bit more involved. So I gather it's not that I haven't thought about doing them before. It was just I have all these other skills to get XP in, and I might as well take an easy route at certain points and or align them to the goals of my account at the account at the time being, right? So um couple previous goals that were on the horizon during competitions were to finish out 200 mil strength, 200 mil range. So outside of getting those finished, I didn't want to do another competition where all I did was sit in Castle Wars. So I decided that I would do mining, which, as we can see from here, if we open up the temple from that period, I did 122 for the week. Nothing remarkable, so to speak. Um, Most people do a lot bigger numbers than I do anymore, but I think after about day 3-ish or so, I started just sleeping a somewhat normal amount because I just wanted to sleep more. Um, so that was kind of that piece. It was nice to actually get to try out cake mining just solely. So usually what I do when it comes down to mining is I like to do things on the PvP world, like have an account splash me, trade myself cake. For the adjacent rocks, it's the splash retaliation that allows you to 2-tick, and then the cake on the movement is 3, so an average of 2.5. These are the sorts of methods that I enjoy being able to do, but for something like a competition, if I was to scale myself to those higher rates and do those methods, that would be a deterrent to myself. If I was to ever be crashed, I would essentially not be able to mine, and I'd have to go do something else. So for this entire week's competition, I pretty much strictly tied myself to cakes outside of the PvP world where I could kick myself. So just a 3-tick kicking alt. Same sort of rates as cake. It's actually a little less than cake, but it's a little more chill. The obvious problem being it's PvP world, so you can probably get crashed. So I really enjoyed the kind of mix with this. It wasn't something that I was overly confident with when it came to just solely using cakes. Um, so for just kind of jumping in and doing a 122 of that, it was nice, and I really do want to get back to mining, but the current state of mining, the way that it is right now, is pretty abysmal for free to play. The only real location that mining is done in free to play at the moment is that of the mining guild. Ever since the removal of being able to be attacked and collect resources in the wilderness, we've been pretty limited on where we can mine. It's pretty much been the mining guild since the update of the 4 rock layout that is in the free-to-play section of the mine was released. And with that, obviously allows for us to alt trade quite nicely, so we can bring an alt from the Falador East Bank over towards the guild, trade ourselves cakes, for example, ashes, whatever it may be that we might need to end up trading to ourselves. So with that kind of being said, it really is just at a bad state where all of the methods are, we want to be able to 3-tick mine, but we don't have a 3-tick item, so we need to trade ourselves cake. And we can't really kick alt unless we went to a PvP world, but there's only one PvP world in free to play. So it really is just a like juggling game of hopefully you log into the world, it's free, you can use it. Otherwise, you're kind of just out of luck, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much how this sort of week ended up going. I do want to get back to mining really badly, but we'll just leave it at that for now. So the next little piece of information to kind of go over time being is, I guess, the last ramble that I had a webcam pointed towards my mouse and all of that. I'm not going to do that this time around. Um, there has been a couple switch ups from myself when it comes to mice. As it's the winter right now, I don't want to really be using a glass pad. It just stays too cold in the mornings and throughout the day. That using a glass pad's just not going to be it for me. So I now just have an Artisan Zero on the table at the moment. I also have a Key 83 off to the side, just as if I need to switch pads for whatever reason or feel like I want to. Um, it was quite a stretch to jump to a zero. Zero's quite a bit slower than glass, of course, and it felt a little muddy to begin with, but I will say that the artisan dot skates on the mice really do keep the glide on pretty much any pad still pretty for lack of better words, a lower level of friction, I guess. um I've been enjoying that. I have gotten a fair few new mice since that time. However, some of the mainstays that are typically on my desk right now are the OP1 8K. That is a wired mouse from Endgame Gear. It is it's a very normal looking mouse. So, from those that watched my previous ramble, seeing a fingertip mouse for the first time and freaking out with how small it is, this is a very normal mouse. It's a little skinnier than what like something like a Super Light or a Razer Viper V3 would be, for an example. But it does have a very comfortable shape. Your thumb and your ring and pinky finger kind of fit into a perfect kind of area on this mouse, and the shape is just very comfortable, at least for something like a claw grip. If you really fill out your palm very heavy in your mouse, this mouse is probably not going to be for you unless you have very small hands. So um yeah, that's kind of been my main kind of driver when I'm just kind of relaxing, chilling out. There has been a couple different fingertip mice that have released. So one of these fingertip mice being the Fenrir ASIM. I was really excited for this mouse because it kind of had a very low profile. And then on top of it, it kind of had a flare out towards the pinky. So I thought that that would, really loosen up the kind of tension that you have of pulling your fingers in so much when with a fingertip mouse. Unfortunately, this mouse lasted me about a couple weeks at max. The sensor on it ended up skipping, and it was just really unplayable. I could I've loaded up things like an aim trainer just to see like how long does it take until this thing skips, and it skips in any scenario all the time, and it's just very choppy. Like it feels like as if you're getting screen tear, which I know that I'm not because I just plug in another mouse and it works fine. Um, so it was definitely just solely the sensor. There was a couple suggestions on turning off like your Wi-Fi radio signal and stuff like that, to make sure that it's not interfering. I mean, if none of my other wireless mouse are interfering, that's kind of a stretch, but I did give it an attempt. It worked for about an hour and a half without the jitter and the sensor skipping, and then it was back fully again. So I've tried cleaning out the sensor. I've tried, you know, playing around with it. I've given up on the mouse. And luckily, the same company that brought us the ASIM, which most people do love, by the way. I probably just got a bad copy and am a little unfortunate on that side. But they also came out with their Fenrir Pro. So it has the same sort of profile and look as the ASIM. However, it doesn't have that pinky flare out, and it is less than 20 grams in total. It is a very, very, very light mouse for fingertip. Mind you, with all G-Wolves mice, I like putting grip tape on, so maybe mine is right around 20 grams. I haven't actually weighed it on a scale, and I'm not going to do so right now. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much where that's at, as well as the I do swap out the stock skates towards the artisan dots that I spoke about before, so that might add a little bit of weight because the stock skates that are on this Fenrir Pro is quite small. Like they're much smaller than normal dot skates, which was a little odd to see, but looking at the frame, that kind of makes some sense. So I guess I've been talking for about 15 minutes now, and I guess the only other detail to go into is all spans. I'm not going to go into a sense of a negative outlook on anything, but false bans definitely do happen in our community, and I feel that Jagex is starting to get a little bit more transparent with such. I hope that it's not impolite of me to share the details I'm going to share, but either way, I think that it from the message that they sent me and the fact that they want to be transparent, me sharing such thing in a ramble hopefully is an acceptable scenario. That I mean, we need to be held accountable for things as well as I'm not trying to say anything negative. I feel that there's actually been quite a bit of positive outcome over at Jagex, especially in the scenario of false bans. So, with no further ado, I was false banned once again. Back, what would it have been now? The 17th? Was that the weekend that I was banned? I believe that's the case. 17th or 10th, something of that nature, of January. So, um, it was a ban right after staying up, just doing exactly what you're seeing on screen right now. So, pretty much the entire day prior was just Castle Wars, and I essentially woke up the next morning after having some drinks with some friends as I was gaming and realizing, okay, I've been banned. So I slept in quite a bit, which was quite shocking to then wake up and be banned. So that was very unfortunate. However, it was very quickly addressed. So come Monday, it was addressed, and we're back at it again. So for those that might ask questions around it, like what do you think got you banned? Did you do anything wrong, etc.? No, I don't cheat in this game. I'm not going to cheat in this game. Um, I truly just I don't have any idea what would have flagged it. So for those that might not be aware, I do record absolutely all of my gameplay. So for an example here, I'll bring back up the screen here. We go over to my playlists. These are unlisted at the moment. I don't need to flood the inbox of every recording that I ever do for YouTube. But these recordings here are unlisted at the moment, just for a, you know, proof if I need it. I can send it to Jagex at any sort of date and time stamp of any kind of recording that I so need to prove my innocence, so to speak. So here we can see the playlist here of the post, my first false ban. So this was back in 2024, where my belief at that time to the false ban was that I was at Edgeville doing combat and prayer on a PvP world. Very strange, awkward method that more than less likely is something that somebody would end up seeing in the game and reporting you off of because they don't understand what's happening. So with that, we've put everything into a playlist. So the first false ban recordings are there, and the second false bannings are now starting in another playlist. So we're already up to 13 videos on that one. I have about 2 more or so that still need to be uploaded from that. But other than that, um, that's pretty much where things are laying out at. So um, nothing too crazy, but yeah, that is essentially what has been the case. So just for some context here, this is what I submitted towards Jagex. I also reached out to Mod Pheasant. I've spoken to him a fair few times in cases of individuals that I know personally from the RuneScape community that obviously don't cheat. They are legitimate players that have also had struggles with false bans. I know that there's been people that have tried to reach out to me. If I don't actually know you very well or have any way of knowing anything about who you are as a player, I'm not going to go out of my way and vouch for you. I'd much rather know the individual and be able to honestly truly know that they didn't cheat. So if we're not close, so we don't talk, and you're wanting me to reach out on your behalf for something, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Um, I try to do my best to be nice about it and say that I can probably help on some sort of scenarios. I do want to try, but if I don't know you whatsoever and I don't know enough about your case, I can try my best to bring it up, but I just I don't really want to be the person that has to bring things up to anyone if I don't even know the player in question, right? So um, it's not anything against anybody, and it's not to say that I won't believe somebody's story, but just not knowing the player, it really doesn't work for me. It can be hard. So as we can probably, as this has been on the screen, you guys have probably already read it, but I basically just stated, I don't use any automation on the account. I record all of my gameplay. I upload it unlisted. Um, if anybody needs any proof towards anything, there's a certain period that, kicked off in a weird way or anything of that nature, I'm happy to share that with them. Now, obviously, I could have done a better job of, I could have posted in the ticket the playlist link or a picture of the 1,000 videos that I have, or something to help my case of, hey, these do actually exist. If you need anything, just let me know. But from talking with Mod Pheasant, I knew that I could likely reach out and that it would be addressed accordingly. So as we can see, we typically get the message just telling you that, hey, the ticket was submitted. It's kind of a confirmation to yourself that, hey, yeah, your appeal went through. It's going to go to Jagex support at a period of time. It does not mean that they're looking at it at that moment. But however, what ended up happening is I ended up getting denied. And this was after talking to Pheasant. However, that was a mistake. So as we can see here, if we roll down, this is all within like 10 minutes of one another. So it was just honestly, they stated that we apologize for, and we responded with the incorrect outcome previously. Um, I hope that it's okay for me to share these sorts of details. They did state down here at the bottom here, where does it say? We'd also like to apologize for any inconvenience. We would never do anything deliberately that would apply an incorrect offense to an account. On the rare occasions that things go wrong, we think it's important that we own the error and are fully open and transparent about the situation. So I don't know if this is always shown in every single appeal. Obviously, the apology message at the beginning is definitely a different light than what I've typically seen for people that have been unbanned. Just seeing that they truly want to, you know, do a better job at the false ban scenarios, the attention to detail, looking into accounts that have had some issues or have had a false ban, or players that have probably played tens of thousands of hours, or it doesn't even have to be that many, but thousands of hours into the game, that really taking a really close approach and look at the account to ensure, hey, is this truly the case, is definitely a push in the right direction. Now, I can't say to any assurance like how well their detection does on ensuring that yes, you were falsely banned, and that every single time that you may have ever had a false scenario that you would be unbanned. But at the very least, we do have more things that are able to get towards that, right? So the first appeal that people make typically at this moment is um, what will be looked at, and then a second one can be elevated to be looked at in probably a deeper dive into the account, really looking at some details around it, and from that they determine whether the account was falsely banned or if the offense was correct. Now, I'm not saying that it will always be 100% right all of the time, right? There are going to be odd cases where both conditions show that no, this didn't happen, and maybe the person completely did not bot whatsoever or cheat in any fashion. However, I do think that as much as the community can be pretty hard on Jagex, I do feel like we're we're starting to go in the right direction. I still feel that there's a lot of way to go in all sorts of different aspects when it comes to um, player support that people are getting, and but seeing the the uplift in these sorts of things is really nice. Um, I've also heard from people that don't don't contact out to a mod that they've also had some success with the new appeal system, which is also just a very good thing to hear. So hopefully we'll continue to see a positive side towards things of appeals, making sure that players that are truly falsely flagged are quashed accordingly, and it also feels like some of the turnaround times on these sorts of appeals have gotten a fair bit quicker. So I'm not sure if that is across the board for everybody, but seeing some appeals, even just when I scroll through Twitter, every so often you'll see a false ban, and then a response to it within a week or two is like, oh, we're back. So it's nice to see that players that have dedicated a lot of time into the game um, haven't haven't been cheating and end up getting falsely banned are getting the right outcome for their account, which is important. So yeah, I guess that's really all that I had to say in this ramble. Pretty boring content in the background to it. I'm just doing Castle Wars, so not very exciting, but hopefully everybody enjoyed it. um yeah, I don't know when the next ramble will be. When people ask questions about when I'm going to do a ramble, it's kind of just whenever I decide. um yeah, I think that hopefully we'll get to a point where we're doing some more exciting skills of the gatherers, and I'll have a little bit more to talk about when those things come around. But thought I'd just make this quick video. I guess it's been 30 minutes, so maybe not the quickest video in the world, but for anybody who's still listening, this is for those people that care to stick around right till the end. Yeah, hopefully everybody has a good rest of their day. Keep making gains. Free-to-play competition is coming up soon, so if you want to sign up, make sure to sign up. And if you're not part of the free-to-play clan and want to be, yeah, do check out our Discord and go and apply. All right, that's all that I've got. Bye.